Ferrari ended pre-season testing in Bahrain with Charles Leclerc setting the fastest time of the entire two-week program, a 1:31.992 on medium compound tyres on the final day, finishing nearly a full second ahead of Lando Norris in second. That is the kind of headline that gets the Tifosi dreaming, and after the nightmare that was 2025, you can understand why. But here's the thing, the SF26 that crossed that line on Friday is a fundamentally different machine to the one Ferrari started testing with just 3 weeks ago, and the story of how it got there is genuinely fascinating. Ferrari made a decision back in April 2025 that stunned the paddock at the time. They essentially wrote off their 2025 season mid-campaign, switching all of their resources and development focus to the 2026 car. That is an extraordinary sacrifice. While McLaren was sprinting to the championship, Ferrari quietly shut the door on that year and went all in on the future. Fred Vasseur described the scale of it plainly, telling media it was the biggest change F1 has ever seen. New chassis, new tires, new engine, new battery, new fuel. Everything changed at the same time, and we had to be ready for all of it. The pressure on Maranello to get this right was enormous, and what we saw in Bahrain suggests that bet is starting to pay off. The SF26 that arrived in Bahrain for the first test was what Ferrari called a Spec A car, deliberately conservative, a baseline to learn from. What they brought for the second test was something else entirely. For starters, Ferrari fitted a brand new power unit, the 67.6. After the original engine had already covered the equivalent of 14 Grand Prix without a single reliability issue, which in itself is a remarkable achievement under completely new regulations. Alongside that fresh engine came a new gearbox, because the 2026 technical rules put significantly more mechanical stress on the transmission than before, requiring far closer monitoring. Ferrari also introduced a revised front wing with a fundamentally different mainplane profile, where the old version drooped in the center. The new one is flat and clean. The end plates were redesigned with an outward curvature specifically to generate outwash and shield airflow away from the front tires, and the third flap was completely reshaped with 2 gurney flaps added along the trailing edge for extra downforce. They also reworked the floor, revised the sidewalk geometry, changed the deflector array with 6 new vortex generators along the inboard leading edge, and even added horizontal blades between the floor strakes. And if that wasn't enough, Ferrari debuted a small flap positioned at the end of the exhaust pipe, designed to harness exhaust gases to generate additional downforce, a concept so complex that analysts are calling it nearly impossible to replicate without redesigning the entire rear architecture of the car from scratch. Then there's the rotating rear wing. Ferrari's SF26 features a rear wing flap that literally flips 180 degrees as part of the new 2026 active aerodynamics rules. But what has genuinely stunned rivals is how they've integrated exhaust flow into the system to extract more aerodynamic load. Technical expert Sam Collins described Ferrari's rear diffuser area as featuring beautiful, intricate aerodynamic elements that every single team is now working on harder than ever before. And Ferrari clearly had an awful lot more to come heading into the second test. He wasn't wrong. And Ferrari even doused the SF26's floor in FlowViz paint during the first test to get visual confirmation that the aerodynamic surfaces were performing exactly as their CFD and wind tunnel tools predicted. Sign that their simulation tools and real-world data are correlating well. Vasseur has been quietly confident throughout, and his words after the second test told their own story. When asked if he was happy with how testing went, he said, "Happy, yes. But we have to keep in mind what was the target at the beginning, and we've hit every target we set for ourselves across both tests, which gives me confidence going into Melbourne." He then made a point that reveals exactly how Ferrari are thinking about this season. "I know that the development will be so huge during the season that the most important thing is the capacity of the team to develop. The capacity of the team to bring parts quickly to the track, much more than the raw performance at race 1. That is a team principal who is thinking 5 steps ahead." He also threw down an indirect challenge to his rivals. I'm really convinced that everybody will bring huge upgrades next week, and perhaps again in Melbourne, but we know our margin, and we know where we stand." That line landed like a quiet grenade in the paddock. Vasseur also spoke about the philosophy driving all of it, saying, "If you want to win, you have to take risks. Starting from a blank sheet always brings the fear of making wrong choices. But being innovative and daring is the only way to excel. Many people prefer to play it safe out of fear. But that's not our case, and it never will be." Now let's talk about the drivers, because there is a very interesting story playing out inside that Ferrari garage. Lewis Hamilton came into these tests a changed man. After the low point of 2025, a season in which he failed to score a single podium, while Leclerc claimed 7, Hamilton arrived in Bahrain visibly lighter, more energized. After wrapping up testing, he went to social media and wrote, "It's inspiring to watch a team pull out all the stops to build a car like this. The dedication, the sacrifice, the belief inside that factory is something I haven't felt in a long time," which felt genuinely emotional coming from a man who spent most of last year looking deflated. He also said, "I'm reset and refreshed, and I'm not going anywhere, so stick with me. For a moment, I forgot who I was, forgot what I was capable of, but thanks to you and your support, you're not going to see that mindset again. I know exactly what needs to be done, and this is going to be one hell of a season." That is a very different Lewis Hamilton to the one we said goodbye to in Abu Dhabi. What's fascinating is that Hamilton feels a genuine ownership of this car in a way he simply couldn't with the SF25. He explained it directly. "Last year we were locked into a car that ultimately I inherited. I had no hand in its creation. This is completely different. This is a car that I've been able to be a part of developing on the simulator for the last 10 months, and you can feel that when you're driving it. There's a bit of my DNA in this thing." He admitted that the first morning in Bahrain was rough, the braking felt all over the place, and he described the overall driving experience as feeling slower than GP2 right now, in terms of how the car reacts and the energy management you have to do. But by the end of the second test, he said he was in a much, much better place. "The confidence is building every lap, and I'm genuinely enjoying being inside that car again, which means everything to me." Charles Leclerc, however, looks immediately at home. He adapted to the car almost from day one, and was setting fast times with minimal fuss throughout. His feedback after the first Bahrain test summed up where Ferrari stand. "So far, the data is broadly in line with what we expected from the simulations, which is encouraging and honestly a relief, because with a regulation change this big, that correlation doesn't always happen. Now the goal is to keep pushing forward with the program and make sure we arrive as prepared as possible for Melbourne." What do you think? Is Ferrari the team to beat in 2026? Or are Mercedes and McLaren hiding more than we think? Can Lewis Hamilton finally get his 8th title, or will Charles Leclerc beat him to it in the same car? And is that rotating rear wing the secret weapon that changes everything? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe for more F1 news. I'll catch you in the next one.